Uh,
That was interesting. Not sure what
I'm
happened there.
small. I've often been told that the movies got big, but I remained small.
Oh,
Good
hold
morning,
on.
everyone. You're watching the TMI
I
show
can,
with Ted.
I can fix this. Hold on.
Okay, that's oh,
Wow.
that's oh, then we're rounded. Well, anyway, you are joining the TMI show with Ted, Rall, and Manila Chan. Robbie West, as you can see, is plainly sitting in for the vacationing, doing nothing at all, sitting on her laurels, Manila Chan, who is just basking in relaxation, doing nothing at all. Manila, if you're watching, vacay time is over. Time to get back to work. Anyway,
If
thanks
you
everyone
step
for
back by
joining us.
the street to fire her.
Yeah, we should fire her. Fire her. We can just racially discriminate against her. It's totally cool now. Like, yeah,
Could,
like
could, we, could we deport her to South Sudan?
probably, yeah, yeah. We could probably just claim that she had Ebola and send her to Kenya. Do whatever we want. Like, we're white. We have privilege.
Hey,
Don't the white privilege card. Don't leave home without it.
Ted, that's a bunch of crap. There's no such thing as white privilege, and we both know it. We get the privilege of being the most discriminated group of people in the fucking country. We can't, you can't get student loans. You can't get jobs because of affirmative action. I mean, that is the most stupid, asinine, and frankly racist thing that our society embraces. It's retarded, and I use that word deliberately.
We will have that discussion another time, but we have a hard out at 11 o'clock today. And we have actually at least one very serious story. As you guys all know, TMI is a lighter take on the news usually, but today it's not all light. We have some serious doom and gloom to talk about. So if you like the show, please like it, follow it, share it. We appreciate your donations. If you have questions or comments, please put them in the live feed in here in the 10 a.m. hour on YouTube or on Rumble. Super chats on YouTube and Rumble rants on Rumble are, of course, prioritized because that's where the moolah comes from that keeps Robbie and I in our amazing wardrobes. So and hairstyles. So these, you think these looks come cheap? You gotta pony up. Okay, so are you ready for a story?
Yeah, your hairstyle does take more work than mine does.
That's true. That's true, but not a lot more. Anyway, all right, here we go. Okay, so New Orleans is doomed, actually, and everyone should probably, according to this new report, New Orleans needs to be evacuated as soon as possible. So New Orleans is locked into a watery future, which will see it surrounded by ocean as early as this century, not the next century. That, according to this new expert analysis, which says that the city has to start relocating its residents now in order to avoid chaos. The paper's conclusions are stark. But of course, obviously, everyone knows that New Orleans is vulnerable to rising seas as the planet warms up. Coastal Louisiana is one of the lowest lying regions in the world. New Orleans, a city currently of 360,000 people, is particularly exposed. It's in a bowl-shaped basin, mostly below sea level, in the middle of a rapidly shrinking delta. The city is almost entirely surrounded by wetlands, which act as a buffer against hurricanes and storm surges. However, these are fast disappearing because human beings, always the smart ones, are draining them for development, dredge canals. They dredge canals in them for the oil and gas industry and construct river levees, depriving them of the sediments that stop them from being submerged. Since the 1930s, Louisiana has lost, well, it's not like they left them on the subway or something. They threw away 2,000 square miles of important wetlands. Coastal Louisiana faces sea level rise of around 10 to 23 feet, according to the analysis published in May in the journal Nature Sustainability. Now, I think it's very important for people to understand, like, when you have a storm surge, and the water level rises 10 feet above whatever the current sea level is, that water doesn't just go to that level. The water has its own momentum and will travel much, much, much further than that. And 10 to 23 feet is massive. The impacts will be bleak. 75% of the remaining surviving wetlands will be lost forever. The shoreline could retreat inland by up to 62 miles. The region has crossed the point of no return, the paper's authors say, adding that New Orleans may well be surrounded by the Gulf of Mexico before the end of this century. They argue that the city must seize the opportunity to develop strategies for relocation that could make it a model for places facing a similar fate. To map Louisiana's future, the report's scientists looked into its past. One of the authors identified an ancient shoreline about 30 miles north of New Orleans, which formed about 125,000 years ago when temperatures were similar to today, but the oceans were about 10 feet higher. It's very likely that the sea level will rise to that same elevation in the future, said Torbjorn Tornquist, report author and geology professor at Tulane. The question is, what should be done and when? Since Hurricane Katrina, which of course slammed into Louisiana in 2005, killing nearly 1,400 people, New Orleans has lost about 25% of its population. The retreat has been a pulse-like process where every major storm or flood prompts more departures. The storms the city faces are only likely to get harder to endure. About 99% of the population of the city is at high flood risk, according to a recent study. When another Katrina-like hurricane strikes the city, almost everyone would experience flood damages, says Wai-Yun Shao, author of that study, an associate professor of geography at the University of Alabama, which I guess will be part of the Louisiana shoreline at that point. Failing to implement a carefully managed relocation process risks a chaotic retreat, which will come at high cost, especially for the city's poorest, according to the new paper. As population falls, it will entrench existing inequalities. The tax base erodes, services get worse, insurance premiums skyrocket, homes, of course, lose their value, and obviously there's less money to build levees and do disaster response. So all in all, it is a clusterfuck of epic proportions, and it looks like the city's just. I mean, look, if you have a city where 99% of the residents are at high risk of flooding, I hate to say this because it's one of my favorite cities in the world. New Orleans has got to go, and I don't know, if relocating it to New Orleans really makes a lot of sense. We have a lot of cities that can absorb the population that's currently there. But the point is, we have to get real. We have to get these people out, and we should have a federal program that incentivizes people to move, that compensates them if they're property owners, and just says, hey, we'll buy your house, but you need to go. And you'll be able to settle. You'll be able to go somewhere where you won't have to worry about the next hurricane.
So, being from the Gulf Coast, I've got some personal experience with this.
Oh, cool.
So we moved to Montana after 2010. After Hurricane Katrina, and that's one everyone always learned about. There's all the looting and stuff. About the next year or two after that, I remember which hurricane it was. I was in Loxley, Alabama at the time, and we got a bunch of refugees from New Orleans. And the sheriff is out there and the deputies out there in the car saying, y'all need to realize this is not New Orleans. We lose power, y'all start looting, these people are going to shoot you. And the hurricane came in, they lost power. And sure enough, our good neighbors from New Orleans decided to start trying to loot, and they got shot. So to your point, there are places that in this country that people should not live. New Orleans is one of them. You can make the case that these big agrarian, these big farms that are there in California, because they're using up all the water, they should not be there. The city of Phoenix should not be there.
Agreed.
So my question is, if you're going to export all these people from New Orleans, And New Orleans has a significant, I'm going to call it racist for this, I really don't care. New Orleans is a victim of its own stupidity and its own demographic. They have rampant, out of control crime and drug use and murder. And so, if you're going to export a culture or populations like this that is violent and frankly pathetic, why should I take them? Why should I take New Orleans drug dealers and rapists and murderers? And then how are you going to tell me the ones that we get here in beautiful Christine Kalispell aren't those bad hombres, to quote Trump?
So
So
first of all,
why should I import their problem?
okay. So first of all, have you been? You've been to New Orleans, I
Oh yeah,
assume.
for sure.
Okay,
I'm from
so
Pensacola.
you
I
know
mean,
most people in New Orleans, the vast majority, are not the way you describe, right?
but a significant portion of the population is. I'm not saying it's a majority, but I'm saying the whole is there's a to quote to quote Papal, there's a fuck ton of them.
Okay, so I'm going to just stipulate that, like, yeah, crime and drugs are a major problem in New Orleans. It is definitely. I mean, hell, much of the crime originates with the police department. I have stories. The thing is that, uh, but still, the vast majority of people who live in that city are law-abiding, peaceful, hardworking people who
How
are
do you know?
just like everybody else.
How do you know?
Well,
Show me your
because
data.
the statistics make it clear, right? I mean,
Show
the
me.
st- I mean that if you look at, well, I mean, I'd have to. I'm doing a podcast right now, so I'd have to get on and show you this. But I mean, come on. I mean, be serious. Like, a city couldn't function. A city that has high crime, like Detroit or Baltimore, is obviously has higher crime than other cities per capita, like, say, New York or Bangor, Maine. But still, even in a city like that, like Baltimore, most people are law-abiding, hardworking, just trying to get by. Right? Criminal element is always a minority anywhere you go. So, look, the thing is, even criminals are U.S. citizens. Even criminals deserve not to drown in a flood.
Why?
Even Come on, because you don't get the death penalty for being a mugger. That's why.
But maybe you should. I mean, listen. Again, I get how I sound. All right, I understand. I sound like I'm being a heartless prick. Maybe in a way I am. Here's the whole thing, though. New Orleans has two big problems. One is that they have a major problem with crime. They don't address the problem. They don't. That's a statement of fact. You can say the same thing about Baton Rouge. You can say the same thing about Mobile. You have a city, and let's just take it for fair face value that the majority of people there are great, hardworking, honest people. Okay,
They
great.
are.
Then why don't they elect people to do something about the people who are not?
I mean, look, that's a good question.
It is a good question.
I have the same question about, like, a city like San Francisco. Why don't they rise up in arms for the over the high taxes that they're paying for, like, really crappy city services? Hell, I have the same question for all American citizens. Why they pay relatively high taxes for such limited government services? I don't really know why. I don't know why we don't hold our government accountable on the federal, state, or local levels. But in that respect, I don't think New Orleans is unique, right? I mean, it's like, look, it's a poor city. There's historic reasons for it. But here we're talking about, like, the need to move the city. So you could say, all right, well, we're going to relocate it. And if we're that worried about, like, the unique culture of, like, high crime individuals, then we'll just move all the high crime and the low crime individuals to a new New Orleans. But the point is, we've got to move these people out. But I'll go beyond that and address your concern. I think people change when they're in different circumstances. I mean, if you moved a gangbanger
Mhm.
from New Orleans to Kalispell, Montana, and they had to live in that culture, they're going to very quickly learn that they're going to have to adapt, that they're not in Kansas anymore. They're going to have to change. Otherwise, like you said, they're going to be shot. So when people, I act differently. I'm sure you do too. Um, when I travel to the Middle East, I don't face I don't let my feet point towards anyone. I don't cross my legs so that happens. I don't, I don't look at women the same way I would look at women here. It's different culture. I act different. When I'm in Paris, I whisper when I'm in a restaurant because that's the culture. You don't speak at your voice at full volume. You're definitely not loud. It's considered extremely rude. When most people go to a new place, they change. I mean, you probably don't act or think the same way now as you did when you lived in Florida, do you?
Well, no, because I've changed my mind about about certain things. But culturally, I'm still the same guy. I'm still I'm still a white guy. I'm still a
But your
Southerner.
behavior, your manners, your behavior, like you
Oh,
would
if it
change
does,
if you moved to Manhattan, you would change it. You would be forced to change also to adapt to that.
maybe I wear dark shirts instead of a white one. But as far as uh, if someone asks me what I believe about something, I'll tell them. I'm not a
Sure.
chameleon.
No, well, sure, but everybody's got. Some people are super chameleons, and I'm not
Yeah,
one of those
I'm
either.
not either.
But the point is, everybody adapts, right? So,
Okay, so
so the
then
point is,
then
though, like, if people are, look, here's the thing: you're a Christian,
uh-huh.
you get 360,000 people who are all Americans.
Yeah.
You're going to let them drown because like there's a high crime rate in New Orleans? Of course not. It's not the Great Flood, and you're not God. We're going to save them and move them because they're our fellow Americans, and like not all of our fellow Americans are perfect people. I'm not, you're not, and they're not. But we have to like look out for each other, and like literally, we're not going to let them fucking drown the way we did 21 years ago during Katrina.
Here's my question for you. And again, I realize how this sounds. In a perfect world, I'd agree with you. You know, we got to get these people out. We got to do whatever. Fine, whatever. It's just if we're going to pull a Haiti, where you just go in and you just scoop all these people up, and then you just start scattering them all over the country. And I don't buy your argument for 1 second that because someone's in a different location that they assimilate to that culture. Malmo, Sweden, is more akin to Afghanistan than it is to Sweden. That's a statement of fact. In France, there are ghettos full of Arabs and Moroccans, and you pointed this out, who are in no way, shape, or form French because they've not
But
assimilated three
France is still
generations later.
France. Sweden is still Sweden, and France is still France.
But you said that they would assimilate to the culture. That's obviously not true. That can't be true. You can see
Well,
with your eyes
the
it's
first
not true.
generation, as we saw here in America, tend not to assimilate. I mean, you can go to the Museum of the Tenement in New York City, and you'll find like displays of letters to the editor to newspapers from 100 to 150 years ago that say, "These fucking Germans and these Irish people, why don't they learn English?"
Mhm.
Like, blah 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 blah. Well, all German people who came here in the 19th century speak English now. Their kids all do. I mean, it's hard for the first generation, but the second and third generations definitely assimilate. No question about it.
Tell you what I would do, and I mean this sincerely, for the people of New Orleans, what I would do, because who is the mayor during Katrina? That bald guy. I can't think of his name right now.
I don't
And,
remember
and
his name.
yeah, and he famously said that New Orleans is a chocolate city. Fantastic. So what we will do then is that we can remove your population, provided that we let nature take its course. New Orleans goes away, and the fact that New Orleans is poor when it's one of the major ports is a self-inflicted wound. That's something they could
Well,
address, but they won't.
port cities are often pits, right? I mean, Oakland, California,
But they don't have to be.
Elizabeth, New Jersey, Long Beach, California. I
Well, New
mean,
York is a
ports are
port.
skeevy. I mean, in France, Marseille is a port. It's skeevy.
I mean, listen. If a city is a pit, it's because it's being mismanaged and not being. It's just not being. It's just not being dealt with.
Well,
But as far as
ports breed crime. Ports
yeah, of
breed
course,
the mafia, prostitution, drugs.
New Orleans would be better off being ran by the mafia because the mafia has rules.
Well, we can turn it. We'd have to revive the mafia in order to be able to turn New Orleans over. But it doesn't
I,
matter because New Orleans is not going to be here,
I,
right?
I agree. What you the population of New
By the way,
Orleans
so do you think it should be? Do you think the whole thing? I don't understand the whole
should be
idea
abandoned.
of trying to relocate a city. I don't think you can. I don't think a New Orleans would, for example, necessarily become a a great place to get beignets and listen to great music. I just don't think it would be. I think it'll be a completely different place. Place matters, and you can't just like up and move an entire city and have it remain anything close to being what it was before. I think the best thing to do is just like move people to other parts of the country.
I would send them all to Baltimore or to Atlanta and say, "Here you are. Go with God. Here's your people. Enjoy."
So that sounds.
You know,
What's the word for it? Oh, racist. That's it.
it's not racist. Listen,
How not? Why Baltimore? Why Atlanta?
because okay, so culturally, are the people of New Orleans going to have more in common with people in Atlanta or Baltimore or Washington D.C. than they do in a town of 10,000 people in Kalispell, Montana? So that's one
Well,
thing.
I mean,
Second of
look at.
all,
Well, that's
hold on.
true. I mean, that's like the
Hold on,
hammam
take a
from.
breath. Let me finish this real quick.
Sorry, go
And
ahead.
here's the other thing. You've been here. We don't have the resources for them.
What
So
and Baltimore does?
you know what? It's a sanctuary city. You want your unwashed masses? I've got hundreds of thousands of them for you. They'll just split them up. And frankly, it's a
Sanctuary
different.
City, Robbie. They're not foreigners. These
I know,
people are
but
as American as
they're
you and me.
welcoming people with their arms. Ted, embrace your diversity. Embrace your
Sanctuary City
diversity.
doesn't
Embrace
mean
your
that you're
inclusion.
welcoming. A sanctuary city does not mean that you're welcoming people from other countries. It means that you're not going to cooperate with ICE Nazis to turn them over and beat them up. That's all.
There's no difference. That's the distinction, another difference. And listen,
Except for legally.
you would they would be more comfortable living in a place that that has a similar racial and demographic and cultural nuance than some place that doesn't. That's all I'm saying. In the last show you talked about how Texas is purple, potentially could go blue because of demographic change, right?
Yeah,
But the Democrats
could.
they want Georgia bad. They want Georgia bad. Well, New Orleans votes overwhelmingly Democrat. So if you want Georgia, here you go. Here's your New Orleans types. Enjoy.
Look, it's America. These people can and should be able to move anywhere they want in the United States. Anywhere they want to move to, Guam or the Marianas Islands or
Mhm.
Kalispell or Dayton, Ohio or Alaska. They can. It's their country.
But it's not a government project, though. I mean, you're talking about the government going in, rounding these people up, and then spread them to the four winds. Oh,
I'm
okay,
not talking about rounding them up at all. I mean that's like forced relocation, like Stalin in the Soviet Union.
that's what
I'm
you would
t-
have to do to New Orleans. Okay, these people didn't leave when Hurricane Katrina was coming in, and the city's under sea
the
level.
poor people didn't leave because they couldn't afford to,
Therefore,
or
it
they
would
were
be
afraid of being looted.
okay. So then it would be a government program then to remove the poor people, correct?
And by the way, looting happened in North Carolina after Hurricane Helene too.
Yeah, looting always happens, and the best you can do with a looter
Always.
is shoot them. The best you can do with a looter is shoot them. Honest to God. But the point remains though, is that it would take a government program to go in, fund the relocation of these people, send them where it is they're going to go, set them up with housing, set them up with healthcare, set them up with education. This isn't free, and it's not going to be voluntary. This is something it's like a mandatory evacuation. You've got to go. You have no choice. You have no agency here. And then the town that you're going to send them to has to accept them. Again, at the point of a gun, say you've got to take these people.
Well, I mean, it's not like you need permission to move to an American town, right? I mean, anybody
You
can
do
just
if you don't
move
have a place
anywhere
to
they
live.
want.
Okay,
Anyone
so
can move anywhere they want, right? It's like they just have to rent an apartment or rent a house or buy a house or whatever. But that's it. They just up and go.
well, the problem is, Ted, is that you've already talked about this yourself. Is that New Orleans is incredibly poor. There's not enough. The economy there is a complete disaster.
Yeah,
Odds
in a
are,
way, this is going to kind of solve that problem.
in a lot of ways. I mean, let's just assume that the average resident of New Orleans probably would not be a skilled laborer like a carpenter or an electrician or an
Oh, I
automobile
wouldn't say
mechanic.
that. Average? I'm not going to say that. That's not. That doesn't. I don't think that's true. I
Well,
mean,
I
New
don't know.
Orleans has plenty of. It has college professors. It has auto mechanics and
But proportion
restaurant
to
cooks.
but in proportion to the population, it's 300,000 people and the city is poor. If everyone was entrepreneurial and a master of the trades, they would not be in the situation that they're in right now. They wouldn't have out of control crime. They wouldn't have chronic unemployment. They wouldn't have drugged out zombie hordes walking around the French Quarter.
I think both things are. I think it's more complicated than that. I mean, people start businesses in New Orleans every day.
Yeah, and then they get looted.
And they create. Yeah, well, and also they have guns there too. It's still the South.
But they need more. I mean, this can be a self-correcting
Well,
problem.
maybe. Okay, but even so, those guns had better be like made of foam because they're going to be, floating away soon. And again, we come full circle.
We
Like
need to
that
oil
city,
them.
I think we need to really internalize the fact as a country that this city is not going to be here. It's going to go away.
And it needs to. Geographically, now, this isn't the
Right.
1700s when the French built it. It was built as a trading post and as a small port. It was
Yep.
never meant to be a major city. I mean, frankly, building a
No.
major
Well,
city in a swamp is retarded.
well, that's true. And do you know how the French laid out the city of New Orleans? It's actually really cool.
It was on a
They
hill.
the French Quarter is they consulted locals who had indigenous people who had lived there for a long time and trappers who knew it well, and
Mhm.
they asked what is the highest point that there's ever been flooding and historically, and that's where they drew the border for the French
Mhm.
Quarter. They're like, we don't want to be flooded.
Yep.
So the French were thinking about that back in the early 1700s, and and that's where the French Quarter is. If the city had never, the city probably should have never expanded beyond that point.
Well, it shouldn't have. I mean, that's obvious. We wouldn't be having this conversation right now if we hadn't.
Nope, nope.
And it just goes to show that going in and doing all the dredging and building all the building all the dams, building the dikes, building the levees, trying to force the land into what it is we want to be, shows that we cannot change geology as much as we want to be God. We're not.
No, I mean, yeah, I mean, look, it's just like the city is where it is, and its elevation is where it is, and obviously, climate change is. We're not doing anything about it, so it's not going to be reversed. That's for sure.
I,
We have
look,
a comment that I should read. It's pertinent to this, and also we want to acknowledge this contribution of $5 from Horses. Robbie spitting facts. Sweden is the gang violence capital of Europe due to high crime individuals. I mean, yeah, I don't know anything about Sweden. I've never been.
yeah, look at Malmo. I mean, you literally cannot go there without a police escort if you're Swedish. I mean, it's wild. They attack reporters. I mean, talk about no Sweden to stand. It's there, and
Yeah, it's crazy.
I guess that's the point that I'm making about New Orleans. If we're going to evacuate the city, which you're going to have to do, then you've got to figure out who the hell the criminals are and who isn't. And if you're going to start escorting these people all over the country, maybe you should send your high crime people to a high crime city they already have, or they'll be happy with. They can make a new
I
rap
mean,
album or something.
I don't know. I kind of don't believe that. I think people tend to rise to the highest level of expectation. And I think if you were to, the smart move would actually be if you're really that interested in social engineering, Robbie, which surprises me since I thought you were a conservative. I think what we
I'm
should
a right
do,
winger. I'm not a conservative.
what we should do is move those people to split up all the gangbangers and send them to the lowest crime areas in the country. They won't be around their associates. They won't be
Mhm.
encouraged to behave badly by bad people. They'll be surrounded by low crime communities that won't tolerate any bullshit, and they'll have to get a job and walk the straight and narrow.
Good. Put them in your town then.
Fine.
You can. I'll tell you what. You get a few. You can just bring up a few thousand of them where you live, and we'll have this conversation again in a year. You let me know how it works.
Okay, we'll do that. All right, we have two more stories left. Not a lot of time, so I had a feeling this would be a super interesting conversation. But seriously, regardless of what happens to these people, we do have to start evacuating, and we need to get real.
Yeah.
I mean,
If we
I would
listen,
not
if
buy a house in New Orleans now. I mean, actually, there should probably be no more permitted home sales at this point.
no, there should be. The city needs to be abandoned. And as far as the whole crime problem, honestly, what we need to do as a nation is get serious about this. Thug culture is a poison. It's toxic, and we need to start. We need to really start doubling down. And again, I'm being called racist for this. I don't care. For people to start getting married and having stable families. Stable families make stable communities.
Move them to
That's what needs to be
Kalispell.
done.
All right.
We will shoot your ass if you loot here.
All right, moving on. Singing, painting, or visiting a gallery or museum helps people to age more slowly, according to the latest study to link taking an active interest in art and culture with better health. The findings are the first to show that participating in the arts and attending events like viewing an exhibition lead to people staying biologically younger. These results demonstrate the health impact of the arts at a biological level and provide evidence for arts and cultural engagement to be recognized as a health-promoting behavior in a similar way to exercise. That, according to Professor Daisy Fancourt, lead author of the research and head of the Social Biobehavioral Research Group at University College London. However, slower aging doesn't necessarily mean that you'll live longer. The epigenetic clocks used in the study to assess biological aging are predictive of future morbidity and mortality, and previous studies have suggested a link between arts engagement and longer lifespan, but a lot more research would be needed to establish potential causal effects on longevity. So those who take part in artistic pursuits the most often slow the pace of their biological aging the most. Under one of the study's methods of assessment, those who did so at least once a week slowed their aging process by 4%, while monthly engagement led to it slowing by 3%. Similarly, another of the tests showed that those who undertook an arts activity at least once a week were on average a year younger biologically than those who rarely engaged in such pursuits. Those who exercised once a week were only 6 months younger by that measure. The benefits the arts confer on the pace at which you age is so dramatic that it's comparable to the difference between smokers and those who have given up smoking, the researchers say.
I have never been to an art gallery. Never have.
Save your life, Robbie. We love you
Uh,
too much to lose you.
no, I'm serious. I've never been to. Me and Kizzy for her birthday, like 8 years ago, we went to a concert. The only concert I've ever been to, and my shadow has never once graced the door of an art gallery.
Well, yeah, I mean, look, I can't speak to, I'm
I do
not
like
like
museums.
museums are great. I like small museums the best. It's kind of like my favorites. There was like France has some really remarkable small museums. It has the Museum of the Pen, which is basically the collection began with a dude who was a 17th century nobleman who worked for Louis the 14th, and 16th, 18th century, and he traveled all over the world as a diplomat. And he collected pens from all over the world and kept them in his house. And the collection has been added to over time. So now there's writing implements dating back thousands of years, all different kinds. And it's literally in this dude's house. And there's all these pens and ways of writing and, styluses and stuff, or styli. Fucking amazing. Or like there's the Museum of the Dreyfus Affair, also in France. And it's like, there's the original manuscript by Émile Zola of J'accuse, and like the letter plates that were used to press the newspaper that announced it. I mean, it's a cool museum. I mean, yeah, I don't know, but I think for me, being creative is like, I've noticed that it really does it makes me feel more alive. And my colleagues, editorial cartoonists, we're a young looking bunch. I sent a picture of my mentor, Mike Peters, the cartoonist at the Dayton Daily News. I put it in the chat to Manila and you. I don't know if you saw it, Robbie. He's 82 years old. I mean, the dude, he could easily pass for 45. I mean, if you go to the editorial cartoonist convention, yeah, there's a lot of gray hair, but we look a lot younger than we are.
Oh yeah, well, I mean, hell, I mean, I would have if I was just to see off the street, I would assume that you're in your 50s. I wouldn't think that you're 62.
Yeah, yeah, I think that's yeah. I mean, I think that's probably I would. I don't know how old do you think I was?
Like 54, 55 maybe.
Yeah, yeah, and that's
Yeah,
not bad.
yeah,
62 years old, and
yeah, about
I grew
six,
up
7 years
poor.
younger than you actually are.
Yeah, I'm 62, and I grew up poor. So I mean, I should look worse than I do. But so yeah, no, I think the idea of creating rather than consuming, like you create, and it's like you feel like you're putting something out into the world, and it provides value as
Yeah.
opposed to just consuming, just like just what I mean. Obviously, I consume a lot. I watch movies, I read books, I listen to radio, I listen to music, I listen to podcasts, but I'm you know but that creative aspect, even though it's maybe only 20% of my life, it's super important.
But yeah, I think there's probably a good analogy for this. The Dead Sea, the reason why it's dead is because it doesn't have an outlet. No, it just has the water comes in from the Jordan River, just pools there in the basin, but doesn't actually go anywhere.
It
I,
evaporates, right?
yeah, and so I think that people are that way. If all you do is take and consume, and you never try to give anything back, or you never actually try to do anything, then you just become dead. You
You
got to
rot.
have it. You got to do something. You have to contribute something. If all you do is take, then what good are you? You're a parasite. You give nothing back to the greater whole.
Yeah, I mean, I also think, well, I mean, I would say that, like, conversely, if if you're creating all the time, but, look, I could produce a lot of content, right? I mean, I do this show, deprogram, DMZ, that's 11 hours of podcasting a week.
Yep.
Plus, there's three editorial cartoons a week for syndication, plus one syndicated column, plus whatever book I'm happen to be working on at any given time, plus whatever miscellaneous side illustrations someone hires me to do for a book or whatever. So I do a lot of stuff, and I can go through periods I'm just banging out stuff. But if I don't consume anything, then I'm not putting anything into the gas tank. So it works both ways. I've got to take time off to walk and listen to birds and cut the lawn and and listen to music and read books and all that. I mean, I think they're both equally important, to be honest.
No, for sure. I mean, you got to have a balance. You got to. I mean, you got to do both. One of the things that I really enjoy doing this, it's just like the conversation we just had about New Orleans.
Mm-hmm.
It makes me think. It makes me reevaluate what I believe. It makes me have to. I then articulate what I'm trying to say, hopefully in an intelligent, non-assholey way, which is not always easy to do.
Yeah.
And so it's good because no, personally, I don't like New Orleans. The only time I've almost ever shot somebody was in New Orleans.
We
Is
got to tell the
because
story now, and then I'll tell you my New Orleans story.
yeah, well, me and Kizzy were there, and we were working for Best Buy at the time. These thugs did not like the idea of a black woman being with a white guy. About 12 of them came up,
Oh God.
and they're like, "Hey, you fucking cracker!" And they started just kind of just getting up on her like they were going to rape her. And I pulled my pistol. I said, "We plant more than cotton if you fuckers don't back off." So, no. So whenever if it feels like I have a personal animus against New Orleans, it's because I do.
Now I know what you
You know,
mean. Like,
no,
I mean, I
Kizzy
personally
no,
I
Kizzy
like
when
New
she
Orleans,
was
but
growing up,
it's a dangerous city.
it
This
is.
It is a dangerous city, and like I would still go back in a second. I mean, hell, Afghanistan is a dangerous country, and I would go back in a second.
Well,
But
Afghanistan's got rules. It's dangerous if you don't follow the rules. The problem with New Orleans is that you're at the mercy of whatever drug, stone drunk reprobate failed abortion example walking around in the city. That's the difference. Like if I go to Afghanistan, if I hand someone a tract, says, "Here, let me tell you about Jesus," that's probably not socially acceptable. On the flip side, though, most likely me and Kizzy could go and sit down in a place and have a kebab and not worry about someone trying to rape my wife.
So in
That's
2004,
the difference.
Ray Davies, the lead singer of the amazing band The Kinks, one of my favorite bands, he was like shot by a mugger in New Orleans. I mean, it's a crazy city. So let me tell you my story. So I was visiting New Orleans, and then I had a rental car, and I was done with my trip and driving in the rental car back to New Orleans Airport to return it. On my way, I'm driving through this little neighborhood, and there was a lot of New Orleans has a lot of overgrown trees that cover signs. I blew past a stop sign because it was covered by a tree, and T-boned a car going the other way. Fortunately, I hit the back part of the lady's car, and no one was injured, but her car was definitely damaged. So, I got out and I said, "Look, it's my fault. I apologize. I'll pay for the damage. Here's who I am. So I'm kind of, I'm kind of famous. Like, so if I can't really just run away, and but I don't want to miss my flight. Here's my info. Please get an estimate for your car damage, and I'll send you a money order as soon as I get to New York." So she's like, "It's cool." She was a student at Tufts University Law School, and she's like, "We're all good." She waited for the tow truck. While she's waiting, after I left, a New Orleans police officer showed up, evidently furious that I had left because he was going to shake me down for a bribe. But he wrote me up for felony hit and run. So he told her this. And I'm like, "There's no hit and run. I mean, I exchanged information. She knows who I am. I offered to pay. Like, there's no dispute here. There's no hit and run." So anyway, the point is, in New York, you don't necessarily call the cops if you have a non-injury accident. You just settle it yourselves. It's like the cops are too busy. So anyway, she calls me and tells me the whole thing. And I'm like, "Oh God." So she's like, "You better hire a lawyer." So I call a lawyer in New Orleans. And I tell him the story that I just told you. And he says, "Oh, it's such a good thing that you fled the scene." I go, "I didn't flee the scene." He's like, "Well, it's a good thing you weren't there when the cop arrived." And I go, "You're an officer of the court. You advise your clients to like not be around to deal with law enforcement?" He goes, "Oh yeah." And he goes, "You know what would have happened?" He said, if you'd been there, the cop would have taken you to prison, beaten the shit out of you, robbed you, and if you were lucky, you would have survived." And he said, "I had so many clients who've just been disappeared into the system and killed. I lost count." And I was like, "You're a lawyer?" So long story short, it was ultimately resolved, really not by my attorney, but by the lady who I hit. She went to the police department and explained the situation to someone who believed her, and then dismissed the charges. But it was like, I was like, "That's a crazy story." I was told something similar about the LAPD. I had several attorneys say I should not drive in LA once I got it involved with the whole LA Times LAPD thing, where they were saying, "You got to be careful. LAPD are like gangs, and if they are after you, they may abduct you and kill you." I'm like, that's a very, very extreme statement. But I had several very high profile, very respectable attorneys tell me that.
Yeah, yeah. And the thing is, it just shows just the deterioration that's happening just in the country, in the cities. There's a reason why I live out in the middle of nowhere. There's a reason why I would never
Oh, it's
live.
nice. You live in a nice middle of nowhere. It's
Oh,
really nice.
I do, but Kalispell's getting too big. I'm looking to move to a place called Lima, Montana, a population of 320 people. It's a ranch town.
That
The, the,
sounds
only,
nice.
the only store is a gas station. And I'm talking to Kizzy about it. And she's like, "Well, how am I going to shop?" I said, "You won't. You'll go to the gas station."
Well, my answer to that question is Amazon solves a lot of problems.
Well, the closest grocery store, like if you want to go to Walmart, is 70 miles away one way in Dillon.
Look, it's like Little Rock on the Prairie. It's literally like you go and you drive to the Walmart and you
Yeah,
load up, and
you
then
load up, you get everything that you need, and then you're good
you have stuff
because
for weeks on end. Yeah, there's no other way. It's just a different way of shopping. You can't be like, oh, fuck, I need a pint of milk. Let me go down to the 7-Eleven and get it. Like, no.
yeah, no, this doesn't happen. It's just
All right. One more
I want
story.
to I want to live in a very small place that people cannot find on a map, where I don't have to worry about getting blown away by tornadoes or having roving gangs of looters coming through,
Well, you have
or,
bears.
or being culturally enriched by Haitians who want to eat my cats. That's all I want.
Um, all right, one more story, and then we're out of here. I got it. We got to call an early day here, because otherwise, the hotel maid was going to come here and knock on the door and kick me out. Anyway,
Get out.
plastic surgeons are increasingly concerned about the rise of AI face, because more and more clients are arriving in their offices with unrealistic AI generated versions of what they want to look like. Dr. Nora Nugent, cosmetic surgeon from Tunbridge Wells, has seen this herself. Clients have started coming to her with photos of themselves beautified by AI and a false expectation that those results are achievable with surgery. She's also the president of the British Association of Aesthetic Plastic Surgeons. She says a lot of her colleagues are having the similar experiences. I can only predict an increase given the rate AI has been incorporated into every aspect of life, she says. People using AI chatbots to generate their ideal faces are increasingly arriving at surgeons' offices with briefs demanding flawless skin, sharply sculpted cheekbones, refined noses, and near perfect symmetry, standards that are too time consuming, prohibitively expensive, and in many cases, physically impossible. While AI can control every single pixel, surgery certainly doesn't work on that microscopic, detailed level, says Alex Curitis, a surgeon based in West London. For many clients, those expectations are shaped long before they ever meet a surgeon, however. Curitis and Nugent describe how psychologically effective AI-generated images can be in defining and reinforcing clients' aesthetic ideals. Nugent says, once you see an image, it's wired into you. Caritas agrees, describing AI as being seared into patients' minds, and said that colleagues had recently been inundated with them. Surgeons are also keen to emphasize that cosmetic surgery outcomes are far from guaranteed. The patient has to understand that there's human variation in how they heal, how they age, and what can be done, says Nugent. I say to patients beforehand, it's not limitless what I can do in surgery. Neither of us control everything. Surgeons have also noticed consistencies in the aesthetics of what they call AI face, hyper-symmetry, something AI can generate effortlessly, but impossible to recreate in real life. Like, good luck with me with my nose that's been banged to one side. If one of your eyes is a few millimeters higher than the other, AI can alter that in seconds, says Dr. Julian Da Silva, a Harley Street cosmetic surgeon. But rearranging pixels is not the same as rearranging anatomy. It's impossible to change eye level because that's actually set in your bone, and brain sits behind the orbits. You can't safely change the position of the orbits, he says. De Silva added that when AI edits a client's photo, it frequently defaults to a widely accepted beauty ideal. For women, a V-shaped jawline, a sweeping OG curve along the cheekbones, and a heart-shaped face. For men, broader jawlines, lower eyebrows, and fuller upper eyelids. But De Silva is also concerned about another growing trend: clinicians sharing surgery results on social media that appear astonishingly effective, but which he suspects may themselves be generated by AI.
Yeah. Just be happy with the body that God gave you and call it a day. You're going to get old and die anyway. What difference does it make?
Well, I mean, I would say, look, if you had some kind of heinous car accident, you went through the windshield, your face is really fucked up,
Yeah,
you know,
that's different.
plastic surgery is called for in a situation like that, right?
Of course, but that's not what we're talking about here. These are people who want to just go in for the perfect beauty standard.
Well, and often, like, honestly, you are meant usually to have the body that you have. I mean, I had several friends who were girls who had surgery, nose jobs, who were like Italian or Jewish, and they were concerned when they were teenagers that their noses were too big. But honestly, they looked strange with a smaller nose. Their face kind of wanted a bigger nose to kind of like balance out their overall look of the face of their face and their hair, and they looked weird with a small little nose.
Yeah.
They shouldn't have done it, and they all regretted it. They were all like, "Yeah, I was young. I should have like not done it." I'm almost think it should be illegal. Because it's surgery, and
You
like
have to
you
ban
really shouldn't
everything, Ted.
you shouldn't do. Yeah, that's true. But you should do. I mean, you should really. I mean, people die in surgery. I had a colleague. She was 40 years old. She died under anesthesia. 40, having a bunion removed. Now she had to have the bunion removed, but she died. I mean, it's not to be undertaken lightly. I don't think people should have surgery unless it's really necessary.
No, I agree, and they do it for money. Well, the hospital, the surgeon does it for money, of course. The person does it because we have this insane idea of what beauty's supposed to be. Just be happy with your life. And seriously, you're going to get old, you're going to get wrinkles. If you're a woman, your tits are going to sag. If you're a guy, you might start losing your hair. I mean, it's natural. It happens. The Grim Reaper comes for us all.
True.
Just deal with it.
No, I mean, I got to agree with that. It's just, yeah, but I just thought it was really interesting. My favorite detail is that I mean, that's the thing, right? Like these standards, I mean, I wonder if this is going to be it's going to exacerbate a pre-existing problem, which is, with online dating. A lot of people have this illusion of endless choice where it's like, oh yeah, I'm dating someone who's really cute, but maybe I could get someone who's even cuter. And so, if you have, like you and I receive those AI generated faces of like generic Asian girls from the scammers. And it's like, I mean, how many, people are already posting AI versions of their own faces, not just to show to plastic surgeons, but they're doing that they're putting that on their dating profiles. And then it's like, even if you don't respond to that person, but you just see that, I mean, you start thinking like, oh, that's what people really look like. I'm fugly. And you start to feel like shit about yourself.
Yeah. Well, speaking of the scammers, I had one reach out to me earlier this morning. Same thing, little cute little East Asian. And I decided to play with the person. I decided, you get, with me at least, you get more luck if you used a black woman as your bait, as opposed to the Asian. And the person replies like, "Really? Black women?" I said, "Yeah, I'm an American." I said, "There's more black women here than there are Asians. So if you're doing that," so I started talking to this guy.
You're providing him with professional advice.
I am saying, here's what you need to do. So you either go with a black woman or maybe a Latina, because there's a lot of them. Hispanics are the largest growing demographic in the country because we've decided to become a minority in our own country, which is awesome.
It's also more realistic because it's not like every single, fake photo, fake thing that we get. Yeah.
Yeah. No, I said, no, seriously, use yourself a black woman, short hair, go natural, maybe use twists. You're going to get a better return rate for your time.
Thanks a lot, Robbie. Now you're going to like get Americans like taken in by scammers.
Yeah, well, it is what it is.
All those Nigerian princes be cashing in on you. Guys, thanks so much for joining us. We are done with today's show. TMI Show is here Monday through Friday, 10 a.m. Eastern Time. Tomorrow morning, it's a trifecta. It's Deprogram with Jamal Thomas and yours truly at 9 a.m. TMI back at 10 a.m. DMZ America with Scott Stantis and yours truly at 11. So looking forward to that. See you then. Hope all is well, and see you later, Robbie.
Bye-bye, y'all.
Bye. I've got to... Come on, where are you? Where's my video? I think it's
the button.
There we go.
Wrong one. That sure is a fail.
Wrong one. Oh my God. What?
It's the wrole hole, Ted.
Yeah, apparently so. Oh, here we go. Bye.